Alors, merci beaucoup à tous.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's a
le
very big panel.
privilège,
Usually,
de faciliter
I
les
have
panels
the
avec
privilege of
3
facilitating
personnes. Mais là, comme on m'a dit,
panels
on veut
with
vraiment entendre
maybe 3 people, but now I was told
tous
that
les gens qui font
we
partie
wanted
de
to hear
l'écosystème.
everyone who's part of the ecosystem. So I knew it was going to be an exceptional panel. So thank you, everyone, for being here, for accepting the invitation.
Will be held in both languages. So if you need interpretation, you may go to the corner of the room to get your headsets. Maybe they're not too far from the table. I think you get the hang of it now. Mais il va y avoir des questions en français, il va y avoir des questions en anglais.
There will be questions in English, others in French. This is how we will interact during this panel on national and regional coordination. I would start with a short introduction on who you are. Maybe just take 1 minute to tell people here what your roles are. So I'll start by Sabel. So I'm Sabel Gay. I'm the director of the TPNT program and school services for FRAP. I started in the settlement sector in schools. Then I coordinated integration and community development to return then to work with TID for regional coordination.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Malini Singh. I'm the regional coordination for Ontario for the English-speaking SWIS. My career in SWIS started 20 years ago at TNO, the neighborhood organization out of Toronto. And it's incredible to have this meeting, to see all of these, all of this representation for SWIS that we've, come to know all over from the years. So thank you.
Thank you, Milini. Ngena.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup. Moi, c'est Ngena Ali Benga.
Thank you so much. My name is Ngena Ali Benga. I'm the director of the TE National Coordination for FRAP. So I've been working for the FRAP since 2012. Very happy to be part of this panel to learn from my colleagues. Gwendena. Thank you. Next is Linda. Hi, I'm Linda Kalouche. I'm the coordinator for the regional initiative of TE for Francophone schools. I started in 2020, working in the settlement sector, working in school registration, and since July 2025, I started with coordination, and I'm honored to participate in this panel and to have worked with Olivia to organize this panel. Thank you, Linda. Marie-Claude now. Marie-Claude Rio, I'm the executive director of COPA National. That's not on the slide, but it's okay. So there's 2 missions with COPA National to prevent violence against children. We offer workshops on this, and since 2017, we are also doing coordination with TEE in Ontario, so provincial coordination since 2017. And why was COPA chosen? It's because we know that most, or many, I should say, children from immigration are also victim or suffer from violence or intimidation, bullying. So our objective is on many levels, but today I'm here to speak about the provincial coordination of the TE in Ontario. So there's a direct link between these services. Thank you.
My name is Olivia Finnemore, and I'm the SWIS Regional Coordinator for the Atlantic. So I'm with RISA, the Atlantic Region Association of Immigrant Serving Agencies. I also previously worked as a SWIS with Magma and Moncton for a number of years, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much to all of you today. And we'll start off with our first question, and I think that will actually put the context with this conversation today. And it's a pretty important question to be asked, but what is the role of regional coordination in the SWIS and the TEE ecosystems? And how do regional coordinators actually contribute to strengthening delivery, alignment, and impact across local organizations? Maybe Marie-Claude could start off with that question.
Je ne sais pas pourquoi tu m'as choisi, mais
sais pas
ça va aller. Alors, oui, en Ontario, le COPA national, on
So in
coordonne,
Ontario, the national
les
COPA
services,
coordinates
où on appuie les
services
TEE dans leur travail. Et comment est-ce
to
qu'on
support
fait ça?
TE in
De
their work. How do we
multiples
do
façons.
this? In many
D'abord, on
ways.
développe des outils et des
We
ressources,
develop
change,
tools
entre
and
autres, un
resources,
guide, pour le niveau
a
élémentaire
guide, for
et un guide pour
example,
le niveau secondaire, un
for
guide à l'intention des parents.
we're thinking about
Et
doing a
également,
guide for elementary and high schools
offre un appui aux
for
TEE de
parents. We
plusieurs façons.
also support
D'abord, il y a des
TAs in many
rencontres
ways.
nationales où
So
les
there's
TEE
national
se
meetings where
rencontrent.
TE
On offre
can
une
meet.
formation aux nouveaux
We
TEE
offer training
également.
to new TAs as
Et,
well.
on a une rencontre nationale avec les fournisseurs
And we
de
have a
services,
national
depuis
meeting
le
with
COPA,
service
ou le volet,
providers
coordination provinciale des TEE,
and also the
faire
COPA
également des rencontres régionales. Et actuellement,
section
en
of
Ontario,
this
on
with
a
the
12
provincial
régions et plus
coordination
de 60
does
TEE,
regional
qu'on
meetings in
appuie
Ontario
dans leur
with
travail. Donc,
12
notre travail est un service
regional
indirect.
services.
On ne travaille pas directement avec les jeunes.
We support
Cependant, les outils qu'on développe sont à la
several
demande des
other
TEE.
organizations which
Et
are
on est vraiment là
tools.
pour leur offrir
We're there to
tout ce qu'il faut pour les
offer
aider à faire leur
everything that's
travail.
needed to
Donc,
help
c'est
them do their
vraiment,
work.
le rôle du COPA national
That's
dans
really the role of the national
de façon très
COPA.
résumée.
Very summarized, yes, very summarized because you do much more. So let's go from TEE to the SWIS program. We mentioned Ontario, but let's go see the Atlantic region.
The role that your organization had regarding the ecosystem of the SWIS in the Atlantic region.
Yeah, so the purpose of the regional coordination in the Atlantic is to improve the national coherence of the program and to improve the consistency of service delivery. So in the Atlantic, we have 10 settlement organizations that are delivering SWIS services, and I think that's important to be clear about. We don't have school districts delivering SWIS services in the Atlantic on the Anglophone side, and we have about 80 SWIS workers. Our role is to connect the SWIS and support them in their work, convening. We have quarterly meetings. We're planning some in-person regional events as well, and really creating a space for networking and knowledge transfer. We've also spent a lot of time identifying the gaps and trying to find and highlight the best practices in the region as well.
Très intéressant, merci beaucoup. Et peut-être Sabelle aussi là-dessus également.
Very
parce que,
interesting. Thank you. Sabel, can you also say something about this? Because every initiative has different components and where they evolve. So I'd like to hear your perspective on this. Thank you. So in the prairies and northern territories, we focus on the RCC objectives by starting with capacity building of service providers. We help them support students to favor intercultural skills and facilitate relationships with stakeholders. So since the beginning of the fiscal year, we started with this approach to reinforce services with service providers. So we've worked with them to evaluate the needs. We did this starting in April of last year, and we developed working meetings. We developed workshops and to evaluate the information they have access to regarding employment and different services offered by all partners. So we have profiles for every service providers to make sure that we can support them. We share during monthly meetings, we share best practices. We continue training TEEs to explain, as the RCC said, the program objectives. This is very important, that everyone in the region with TEE receives this training to know the objectives they must pursue for the users of their services, and so that they can identify opportunities and challenges. Yes, we'll speak more about this during the panel. So, Linda, in New Brunswick, how are things going? How is it evolving for you? So, in New Brunswick, we have the reality of minority francophone communities, a lot in rural zones, and settlement workers that are there to help families. Often the only support they have is this worker from the settlement sector to help them settle and integrate in the community. So there are not enough resources. So what we wanted to do is to visit the field to see what was going on, understand their realities. And then we established a consulting committee with the settlement workers and program managers. So it's a space where everyone can express themselves, learn from others' experiences. And we realize with this that out of the 6 service providers we have here in Atlantic, 4 of them are very, very new. So we're trying to work with everyone to make sure we're on the same level with the services they provide. Great perspective. Okay, so we started with Francophone Ontario. Let's go to English Ontario, no? Now?
So, Nalini, maybe you can address a little bit on the ecosystem around the Ontario SWIS program.
So SWIS Ontario, for the English-speaking boards, there are 60 school boards that we are working with 40 plus agencies, and we do have a few school boards that are also providing SWIS, which makes it different ecosystem altogether. In looking at that, we have more than 300. Oh, sorry, I'm hearing myself. I really should have taken French in high school.
Well, the beauty of this event is we do it in both languages. So
I just hear everything. But within that, it's more than 380 Swiss workers for the English boards, which is just incredible how the organization and the ecosystem across Ontario is working. Regional coordination serves as a system connector, so bridging frontline delivery, school boards, community agencies, and all of the funder priorities for consistency, equity, and to improve the impact across Ontario. So some of the things we're doing in terms of strengthening delivery, looking at building staff capacity, so new worker trainings. We're looking to do experience worker trainings, management trainings, improving communities of practice within the work that we do, and knowledge exchanges throughout the sector as well. So that encompasses sharing tools, frameworks, promising practices, so agencies don't have to work in silos. So looking at digital platforms, newsletters, web, all kinds of things that we're doing. A lot of groups, there's a lot of community of practice that we've already started to do, WhatsApp groups, there's all kinds of messenger groups, all kinds of things like that. So it's really supporting the alignment of the education system along with the newcomer settlement priorities and the regional priorities. So that's some of the things we're doing to drive impact across Ontario.
And we'll talk furthermore about the tools that you've been putting in place or starting to put in place to ensure best practices across the network. On a parlé donc de la coordination régionale, beaucoup.
On regional coordination that we've addressed a lot, but what about national coordination of TAA? So I will go towards our colleague in Guinea. Because as a national coordinator for TEE, can you tell us about the role of national coordination in the framework of the program? Since the beginning of this work in April 2025, this is something that's very young. It hasn't been a year yet. On what did you focus up to now? On what do you work, or what are you planning on the national scale?
Anthony, pour la question.
Thank you, Anthony, for this question.
Merci à IRCC d'avoir
And thank you
mandat à la fois
for the mandates
ces programmes
that have been given to the FRAP for these programs.
de la collaboration des
We would lie if we didn't say that it depended on the collaboration from my colleagues in regions.
Olivia a parlé
And concerning the regions, Olivia talked about
les lacunes.
the gaps.
Travaillent beaucoup pour l'extension.
Regions work a lot for the improvement, the enlargement of the program, and when they detect a community in the French-speaking community that's in a minority, the needs need to be identified. So to be able to go into these regions and to integrate the programs, the regional coordination works for that, and you will see it a lot in the Maritimes. When we started in the prairies in 2020, maybe we only had 10 Ts in the prairies and Northern Territories, but today we're more than 30. This is because we couldn't identify the needs, and regional coordinations worked a lot in identifying those for the services that were lacking. They also work to accompany service providers, especially when it comes to explaining what the establishments, the education establishments, schools, and the school boards, to understand really what the role is for all the service providers. And when we talk about school advice, that's easier. But when there's a community service provider that must work with the school board, then there's a lot of training and coordination. And on the regional front, this strengthens the message for to implement those services and to have agreements done. Without regional coordination, the national coordination is not efficient. The role on the national scale is to amplify the work of the regional coordination by working together, by collaborating. We work around a collaboration framework that's accepted by all parts. The first step being in the discourse, or the Caroline speech, was in the IRCC presentation. Our colleagues that are in the field, they have the will to work, and certain organizations themselves design their own tools. You will find that especially where there's no regional coordination. So we have regional coordinations that will start to use these tools and to consolidate these tools. This is very important, and we need to standardize these tools, to normalize these tools, so that a 1T that deserves a school, I would say maybe in Beauport or Cap-Breton, could have the tools that allows it to offer the same services than in Camrose and in Alberta, and so that we can reach comparable results. That's why the network, the creation of that network was very important. We really need to see it as from coast to coast to coast in all the country. This is the #1 objective for national coordination. I'm really happy to learn today that this network is working. We are working very hard in the East with the school sector. And if we take into consideration the COPA and the FRAP, but even if I'm in the FRAP, my relationship with coordination is not the same as the one I share with Linda or the East, or let's say Denis and Marie-Claude for the Ontario. To have cohesion, we need to have a channel to work together. And once this cohesion is there, then we can see how we will go towards delivering these services, the tools, the training, and the best practices. We need to implement a mechanism to allow this mobilization of the sector and the diffusion of information, and then we will really align everything and keep going forward. There's a lot of things to implement. What I hear a lot from what you're saying is concerns the strength of the network for the network. It's the strength of the national coordination, and we need to make sure to regroup these resources and to make sure there's a cohesion without necessarily diluting the realities that come up from the regions. We need to highlight this. And to end on this, do you have anything to add? We need to concentrate, to focus on creating this network and to put in place a table where we can talk. We have discussions on the national scale questions, and we'll have a national conference that will unite a lot of French-speaking people and organizations that had a great success. And now this table will work on the three subjects that are alignment, cohesion, inclusive schooling, and also how to support students that have complex needs. We had questions between the intake forms, and we have welcoming or integration activities, and the NARS right now works on a form that will allow the integration of comparative analysis elements, and this will be, the report will come out soon. We're working in collaboration with the French-speaking Immigration Observatory in Canada to have an analysis of the literature concerning the integration of French-speaking youth and their families in a minority environment. I hope that up till March we'll try to find up a metropolis and where we can display all these information, this data, and the recommendations. These recommendations will have an impact on parents, on students, and on teachers. We need to keep an eye out for that. That will be very interesting. We have a lot of big subjects on the alignment, and we will also create very shortly, as well as bringing forward propositions, and we will request people, we will ask people who would like to participate in this standardization committee. So this is all in the three coming years. Yeah, there's a lot of work that you've been doing. That'll be very interesting. And now we'll touch on other initiatives that will be implemented in the coming years, so we'll have a chance to elaborate on that a little bit later.
I was explaining something just before our colleague was ending his thought, and it was regarding mostly the regional differences. And I actually started the panel discussing the regional differences that we have across Canada. So we have regional differences in community size, the newcomer profiles we saw with the presentation this morning by our CC, and available resources shape how SWIS and TÉÉ programs are implemented. At the same time, there's an increasing pressure around program expectations, funding constraints, shortened eligibility, and staff capacity. So the question is, how do the realities in your region influence how you are building or coordinating your program? Maybe Melanie on that.
Sure, thank you. I think statistically, 43% of newcomers arriving to Canada are settling in Ontario. So there is a lot of real pressure that is coming in. They're not only settling in urban areas, but they're in our rural, high-need population areas as well. So when we look at some of the real pressures, a lot of us know a lot of it is coming from the school boards and their ability to have readiness to take newcomers along with all of the expectations that brings. So the large school systems and how they integrate with one another has become a real point of pressure for Ontario. Looking at the rising demand and limited funding flexibility to work with clients, I think we heard that previously, that there's limited because of the resources. If you're in a rural and you only have maybe 2 or 3 workers, they're doing NARS, they're doing settlement intake, they're doing crisis support, mental health. They're responding and addressing those gaps as they come up. And of course, looking at all the language barriers, it's hard to do referrals if you're in different places and you don't have that capacity. So that's one of the larger responses that's happening to address family engagement and those transitions within communities that we're serving as well. And then to system sustainability, looking at how we strengthen partnerships so school embeds SWIS into their core process. That's something that we really want, we need that to happen as well. That's a dire thing that we really want to work on through regional coordination. And then not duplicating efforts. So a lot of school boards are trying to work with newcomers in complex cases, but SWIS is also trying to do the same thing and may have better resources to better support those initiatives. So strengthening that collaboration and reducing isolation for service delivery. So that's how we're trying to support that.
Totally makes sense. Thank you for sharing this. J'ai vu Isabelle hocher de la tête à plusieurs reprises pendant l'intervention.
Oui.
J'aimerais entendre ta perspective là-dessus.
Oui, donc je vais commencer par sa conclusion.
I will start with the conclusion. When it comes for the collaboration between school boards and the ETU, because the arrival of newcomers can be done together, can be a collaborations to help families integrate. We can also have places that can take care of the families. So you could, for example, the Northwest Territories, we could have other places. We have 2T for 30 schools. So when we talk about capacity, that's difficult. What do we do? What do we do at that level? We have implemented bimensual meetings to support, to know if the service coordination was indirect in the region, and we have established meetings with TEE that do not have coordination. So these coordinators do everything. So every 2 weeks, we have meetings with them to support them. We can help them to separate the management, 2-level tier management, and the managers, and to tell them that they're not isolated. The second thing is the pressure. In the urban areas, it could happen that TEE have schools with 50 families. So we have 2 schools with 50 families, and that's difficult. With this, we have managers, and we try to find out how we supported them, and was it good, or do we need more resources, and how has everything been, and the support, how has it been? So if we have 50 families, it's difficult to support them properly so that they can understand properly the scholar system, which is our objective. So we have maybe we don't have coordination on the English-speaking side, but we do have it on the French side. So we've had presentations to explain the resources that are available with the help of national coordination. And this allowed us to establish a contact between the cities and the isolated zones in order to have English services or French services, and then we could share best practices. We're trying to connect the resources. So this is very much focused on collaboration and communication to make sure that to strengthen that as much as possible. This is all in the context of the resource that we do have. I will go towards Marie-Claude. How can we find that balance between satisfaction of needs, of local needs, and the implementation of a durable and efficient program on the long term. And how can we balance that? I would like to say it's almost impossible. Just as my colleague said, we have the same challenges on the Franco-Ontarian side. And something that hasn't been mentioned is the fact that we do not have access to, as a minority Francophone, French-speaking minority, to all the services of the Swiss that they can have on their side. So, for example, mental health on the French-speaking side, it is extremely difficult to have that in the regions. These represent very significant challenges, and the territory is vast, and maybe people don't notice this, but it is a very big province. So some people do have to travel for a very long distance because they're responsible in offering the services in multiple schools. What we do there, I think of everyone in this room as miracle workers. With the very little that we have, we do not have enough human resources. We do not have enough finances. We don't have enough material resources to do all the work that we would like to do. On the long term, it is obvious that we need a development. We need tools. We need a long-term vision. We can dream all we want. And a vision, that's exactly what it is. But we need to be anchored in the services and the resources that we do have. And that's not always easy. We do have frustration, and I'm happy to see that there's a panel that addresses mental health. This is because I know that on the level of our TEE, this is a very real problem. The stress that these people have to go through. You don't become a TEE just because you become it. You become it because you really want to help. And we do have a trauma that exists in there. And we do face difficulties because we want to give, but we lack the resources. It is extremely frustrating. I was reading the questions earlier, and people said up to a certain point, up to where can we offer services to newcomers? In how many years? It doesn't end after 3 years. It doesn't end after 5 years. Maybe some of those services will need to keep going even further than that, but we do not have the resources to do that. And then we have to say, I'm sorry, we can't help you anymore. Anthony, I'm hurried in not answering your question, but what I want to say is that it is almost mission impossible. We are constrained by the resources that we do have. It's as simple as that. I repeat myself, but we do miracles with the little that we have. And if government was really serious, we wouldn't have to fight for the crumbs. We wouldn't have the current frustrations we do experience. For myself, I lost an employee for reasons of mental health, and I'm not the only one. This is extremely complex. And it is important to have forums like this one to share on best practices and to think about the collaboration that could help us to lighten the load for everyone, but also to reflect together on what could be done and have a better impact with the resources that we have. What I hear from you is the passion for all humans. It is an important factor, but the workers in the field are people who are have a profound passion. People are not numbers. These are real people that have trauma, that have their roots were taken out, and we want to help them. So, congratulations.
Anyone else who wants to add on that subject precisely? Maybe the connection with the human, so workers that are profoundly passionate to help others. Anyone else who wants to add something on that? Maybe, c'est Linda.
Oui, moi je dirais que les travailleurs d'établissement, ils sont là, ils offrent le service, c'est pas qu'ils l'offrent
I
pas.
would
parce
say
que
that
si
people
on
who
voit,
work in the establishment,
le problème c'est que il y a
the
un
problem
écart
is
énorme entre l'effort
there's
qui est
a
fourni
huge gap between the effort that is given and the reports
les statistiques, si on
that
peut
we
le
have,
dire,
the
parce que,
statistics,
même
if we can
si
say it like that.
tu ne reçois pas beaucoup de financement, mais toi, tu
Even
peux
if
pas refuser
maybe
quelqu'un
someone
qui
doesn't
vient
receive a
avec
lot
un
of
permis de
finance
travail,
funding, but you cannot refuse someone that has a work permit. And I always insist and I say to people that TEE is a very human work. I don't think there is a single person here that does it because they need to earn their bread. Everyone is passionate by this.
Coast to coast, SWIS and TEÉ coordinators have seen promising models implemented by organizations delivering SWIS and TEÉ. Maybe we'll start off with, and she actually just was about to direct her question to Olivia. Maybe I'll go somewhere else. But could anyone share an inspiring model from your region, a best practice, something that really, really draw your passion around delivering your service, and also describe what concrete impact it had on students or the broader community? I don't know if Olivia wanted to start off with that question. I know it
The one
was
about
more.
inspiring models?
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
inspiring models.
Sorry, I think there's an issue with the timer, so I'm just flagging that. I mean, there are lots of inspiring models. I spent a lot of time when I started in this role meeting with the organizations that have SWIS in the Atlantic and learning about what their challenges are and how we can help, but also learning about what they currently do and how they have been creative and innovative to try to solve those problems on their own. And there are lots I could name. I'll list a few. So Magma in Moncton has a community compass event, so 2 times a year. They bring together lots of different community organizations in a centrally located school, and it's a really great opportunity for newcomer families to go and learn about services in their area in a very accessible way. It's also done at a school with a very, very high percentage of newcomer students. The YMCA in Halifax has a SWIS-specific training, which is not common across the region, and is something that hopefully as regional coordinating body we can help with in the future, but it's really nice to see that. Overall, there's a lot of job shadowing, which is great, but it can't be the only thing to onboard new SWIS. ANC in Newfoundland has a blanket consent form, which I think is a really cool idea. So the SWIS are spending a lot of time meeting with families to go over consent forms every time that the school had a field trip. And so they decided to create what they called a blanket consent form. It covers all non-risky field trips. And so the SWIS meet with the family with an interpreter one time at the beginning of the year to go through this form and get it signed. And so they don't have to keep organizing those meetings every single time there's a field trip throughout the school year. So those are a couple quick examples. Also, not really a promising model, but some organizations have monthly meetings with their school districts, and those organizations tend to have the better relationships with their school districts. And so while it might not be a promising model, I think there's a lot to be said for the consistent, ongoing, regular communication between those two.
There's something more tangible in
Yeah.
terms of connecting with the school district and directly with people working on the ground. So thank you for sharing this, Olivia. Maybe we'll go, we'll travel a little bit in Canada. On va aller voir peut-être, tiens,
Maybe we're gonna go see Melanie.
Some promising models that you've seen that
Have you seen?
maybe some things that could be shared to our wonderful public online and also in this room in Halifax that can be served as, connecting with and doing good things for the
great
community and the
things.
ecosystem.
SWIS does great things.
Right. It's always
So,
about great things.
and a lot of it, Olivia had mentioned how they embed into the school system. So working with guidance, working with those collaborations and those connections within the school, going to the first staff meetings, introducing yourself, creating a firm referral process, ensuring that guidance is aware of who you are, principals, community partners, what you do as a SWIS worker, and what your capacity is, and how you can support all newcomers that are coming into the school system. A lot of it is training, capacity building, not only for Swiss workers, but for school boards, for their administration, looking at cultural awareness and capacity, building in those much needed trainings that school boards really need to successfully integrate newcomers into the system. A lot of it to looking at academic success for newcomer students is summer programming. So now in WIN programs, however they're implemented, there are so many different models in Ontario. You can't, and every single agency does everything differently, but spectacular in the fact of how they align the work and how they reach all of the newcomers. So Swiss goal in Ontario is that we reach every single newcomer that comes into the school system. So that's how we look at the practice, and that's how we strengthen it.
Very interesting. Like we said earlier, Ontario is a big province, so there's a lot going on in that province. J'ai vu Linda réagir aux propos, puis je serais intéressé de
I
voir
would like to
qu'est-ce
react
qui trame dans la
on what's been said, and what are you thinking about? I wanted to add something in that here with the French-speaking service providers in the Atlantic, there's a lot of things that are moving. We have a lot of activity. For example, the CSAP and the school board, the Acadie School Board in the Halifax province are very much alive. It started not even a year ago, but we can see the number of activities and initiatives in the school and the clubs that have been integrated, implemented, and that is the proof of the engagement from institution workers. It is the same for the Francophone integration in Prince Edward Island. There's a lot of activities to help families feel well integrated. And even for the South Francophone school district, we have a lot of projects that are happening. And I would like to talk about Paraleaders that is destined to students coming from immigration, and is to help them develop leadership in an environment that can allows us to participate in the scholar life and to think about their path. And the results of this program is that these students, when participated in a panel in front of, we could say, the administration, the school administrations, and we had more than 200 of them, and they were listened to. They talked about integration programs, the cultural issue, and even the change in school system. And the magnificent thing about that, what's beautiful about that, is that people listened to them. We heard them, and their engagement changed a lot of practices in the welcoming and integration of newcomers. So this was it was amazing to see the point to which these programs can the start that they can have, and the impact they can have in the schools. Maybe it starts with a small idea, but when we take that idea of where we're going and what it will lead to, so there's always, it's good. It's very nice to go forward and not hesitating in implementing these projects.
Marie-Claude, I would simply like to share an initiative which looks really simple. It's a mentor program called Anna and Bena. Bena for the younger, it's elementary school, and Anna for the secondary school. And it's mentors some students, volunteers, that went through that same journey of immigration. So regardless of being elementary school or secondary school, we train them, we guide them with certain activity types, and they help during a full year new students. And for elementary school, we call them champions, and for secondary school, we call them allies. And it's the same principle, essentially. It could be really easy things like how to use a lock and a locker. And that was actually my nightmares. It was actually my nightmare for a few years, actually, because I was always afraid to miss and to forget my numbers. So if there's a ring, it's not because there's an alert, it's just because it's the end of the class. So really simple things, elementary things maybe, but they are not elementary or easy when you come in a new school system. So it could also go with going out within the community, going on at the library or at a sugar shack, for example. So that's actually really good because the youth are absolutely extraordinary, and there's nothing like another youth to understand another youth's problem and to explain in their own words their own experience and how to navigate in the school system. And I really believe that this was the most supportive initiative at Copa Nacional. We were speaking about by and for, and this is by the youth, for the youth. And honestly, that's a phenomenal success. And when I'm saying phenomenal, we are giving hundreds and hundreds of certificate of participation each year throughout Ontario. That's actually something that we are holding really dear to our hearts. That's really interesting because that actually brings a dynamic that could actually do a segue to my next question. What would actually uphold the significative impacts of the SWIFT-TÉÉ program if and the way that the program up until now have the impacts within your community. So the question that's going to follow here is we talked about best practice, but it's really important to identify the global impact of a program or programs in general in your activities domains. So in your opinion, what are the most significant impacts? Actually, to put the sound on, that was actually a challenge. Just so how can we actually take the sound out?
We're good? Okay.
So I'm
Thank you.
sorry, I have it in English. No, it's okay. I'm just going to go back on the question. I'm sorry about that.
Donc, quels sont les impacts significatifs que les programmes SWIS-TÉÉ
What are the significative impacts of these SWIS-TÉÉ programs in your own region? So maybe we could go with Marie-Claude or somebody else that would like to start on this reflection. I'd like to start maybe with a more general national point of view on this question.
National,
On the national
il y
point of
a
view,
d'abord la rétention des élèves francophones
firstly is to
dans les
keep the
écoles
francophone
en milieu
students
minoritaire. Ça, c'est
within
vraiment les
the
mentalités
mandatory
incontournables
setting
et
schools. That
indiscutables.
was
Et dans
really an impact that
encore
was
dans les contextes où
really important in
l'immigration
the context of
donc,
immigration,
les
where
pays
actually
sont vraiment
immigration
des
is
acteurs
evolving.
incontournables
So
pour la dynamisation de nos communautés
they
en
were
milieu
really
minoritaire.
dynamic
Et
actors within our
ça, c'est ce que je peux
communities
voir au niveau national
because it's a
en premier. Et puis,
minority
il y a
settings.
aussi
So that's what I'm saying on the national level.
les collaborations. Je vais répéter les
And I'm
collaborations
going to repeat collaboration.
pour trouver des solutions.
To find solution, you need
Ça a beaucoup
collaborations.
d'impact sur
That
les élèves.
actually brings a lot
La
of impact
compréhension du système par les
on
nouveaux arrivants.
students and
Et,
the understanding of systems
et
by the
surtout, la majorité des pays
uh,
d'où proviennent
the
les parents,
newcomers,
les rôles du parent n'est pas les mêmes
because
qu'au
the
Canada.
role of parents
Et
are not the
l'été fait
same in other countries as the one they are in Canada. And
là, je reviens encore, certains parents, 3
certain
ans, ça ne pas
parents, I
suffisant
think 3
pour
years is not
comprendre.
enough
Et
to
il faut parce que les
understand,
enfants, c'est l'investissement,
because
c'est l'avenir de notre pays. Et
children are
l'accompagnement du parent
investment for the future of our
prendre les
country. So
étapes par
accompanying
étapes en
parents is
compréhension
really an important
aussi
step for
déjà, c'était l'agenda. Maintenant, ça
understanding
devient
everything. So
beaucoup,
agenda,
beaucoup
for example, it's becoming more and more electronic.
School Messenger, des
Like it's
applications,
School
des
Messenger, right?
emails,
It's through apps
et
or
après la
emails.
compréhension du bulletin.
And
Le
then you
système
need to
scolaire est
understand
incompréhensible pour certains pays, ça prend plusieurs sessions
the
pour
notes, the school
comprendre
notes.
pour
So
soutenir les
the
parents. Donc,
school system is more
la
complex
rétention
than other
francophone
countries,
dans
for
les écoles
example. So
et aussi la
keeping
compréhension du système
francophones
scolaire.
students in our school too, and understanding the
Most
school
significant
system.
impact, in your opinion, that the SWIS program has in your region?
This is a really hard question.
I know, right?
It's hard to boil it down to one thing. I think that if I had to try to summarize maybe like one of the most significant impacts that SWIS make is that I think SWIS they're the ones who are making sure that newcomer students don't get left behind and forgotten. And that looks very different depending on the SWIS, depending on the region, depending on the organization. But when I was a SWIS during COVID. And so what my work looked like was different depending on what level of lockdown the province was in that week, really. But I was the one who was arguing with teachers to let newcomer students borrow iPads so that they could join school virtually because they didn't have a device at home, and otherwise they wouldn't have that opportunity, that same opportunity as their classmates. And I was the person who was printing short stories and worksheets and dropping them off on porches, going home and video chatting kids on WhatsApp so we could go through the materials together because they weren't getting that support from the schools like they needed. SWIS spend a lot of time helping families navigate the online systems that schools require, like School Messenger, School Cash Online, Power School, like I can't even name them all. And if SWIS weren't doing that work, like children, newcomer students would be left behind literally, right? If they didn't help them sign the field trip consent form, for example, they wouldn't get to go. SWIS, they help parents select their meals if the province has a free lunch program. And otherwise, maybe there wouldn't be food for that newcomer student. Or maybe there might be food, but maybe they can't eat it because it's not halal, for example. And so I think SWIS are really the ones making sure newcomer students don't get left behind. And they're the mitigators of exclusion in a way. And I think that's a really important impact of the work.
Someone else wants to add something on this? Or we can
Je
go.
vais juste
Oui,
citer
Isabelle, oui.
un exemple qui se fait au niveau de la région des Prairies et des territoires du Nord.
One
c'est
example
la
that's
maison des
actually
jeunes.
in the prairie or in the
Parcours
North Territory.
Donc, c'est les jeunes qui font beaucoup
It's
d'activités qui sortent
the
et
youth
présents,
that
qui
is doing a
comme
lot of
exemple l'Ontario
activities.
et qui est très
And
significatif. Donc,
I'm
permettre à
going
ces
back on
jeunes
the
d'avoir
Ontario's
des
example,
ressources,
for
les
example, and it's really
accompagner,
significant
c'est quasiment permettre
to
leur
have
réussite scolaire parce que
resources to
sans
accompany,
information, sans bonnes ressources,
and
sans
that actually
accompagnement,
allows
sans
the
repères, ces
success
jeunes seraient
of their
perdus et
schooling
les parents.
journey.
L'autre
Because
chose
without
aussi
the
que
information,
DNO
without good
font beaucoup,
resources, without
c'est que
accompaniment,
Olivier
without
avait cité, c'est vraiment de l'accompagnement,
that,
de
the youth could actually
l'orientation,
feel
expliquer
lost,
comment ça
and the
marche. Donc,
parents too.
en tant que parent,
So,
si on
like
t'explique toutes ces
Olivia
applications,
just
si
said,
on t'explique comment ça
accompanying,
marche, comment tu peux
orienting,
accompagner
explaining how things work
tes
as
enfants,
parents, if you
c'est
don't have
permettre la
those,
réussite de la famille
you
en
don't
général,
have the
travailler
explanation of those
pour que
applications, you don't know how they
l'appareil.
work. So, how are you going to accompany your own children? So, that actually allows a better
Évidemment, je suis
success
d'accord avec
for the
tout
family
ce
in
qui a été
general.
dit, mais je
So,
voulais juste
I'm, of
ajouter
course,
que
agreeing with
même dans les
everything that was
écoles,
said, and I
ils
wanted to
trouvent un
add that
soutien et
even
le
through
fait qu'il y a
school, they
toutes des
find
cellules
a
qui
support,
travaillent
but
sur un
there's so
programme
many
d'intégration
cells
de nouveaux
working
arrivants.
on
Ils savent qu'ils ont des
integration
personnes
program of
qui ont besoin
newcomers. They know that
de
they
quelque chose.
have
Donc ça aide beaucoup même
people that
envers les
they,
directions
if they need
d'école.
anything, they have somewhere to go that actually helps even for direction for the school. So we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm just going to have a small mention, and we'll have a question period, and we'll have maybe 15 minutes.
At the end of this session. It's going to last about 15 minutes, but we'll take two other questions-ish, and after that we'll get with the question period.
Non, je voulais juste te parler de l'impact des travailleurs et travailleuses en établissement.
I wanted to speak about the impact of workers in settlement because it's reducing delinquency, and that's really important, especially the ones that are getting distinguished in the programs of SWIS-TÉÉ, because let's say the parental cell is not necessarily at the maximum they can be or the maximum of the Canadian expectation, it actually plays a great role to avoid the delinquency. So I'm actually going to go piggyback on everything that's been said so far, but I wanted to add one more element. Why is it important to have new families in our school system? It's not because the school system is working in a silo. It's because we want to tool them to adapt and adopt their greeting community, and that the greeting community is also doing the same, adopting them. So we need to see further and greater, because the role of SWIS-TÉÉ is crucial to break barriers and really important as well, so we can actually speak it to each other, so we can understand each other and collectively bring wealth of knowledge, because to these people chose our country to settle themselves. And I think for me, that goes beyond just retention in school. It goes to improve and increase the contribution in North Canadian social fiber. That's really interesting, actually. Thank you for your contribution. Last question, really quick one. I'm gonna start just a short element to close this panel. And
looking ahead, what is your vision for a strong and connected SWIS-TÉÉ program network across Canada? How do you see us moving toward that vision? And what steps are already underway or still needed to strengthen for that national collaboration? Maybe I'll start off with Nalini on this.
So looking at the big picture, I mean, I think a lot of it has been mentioned. Stronger school integration, for sure. So how settlement is embedded into school process through transition referrals, family engagement, reduction of duplication of services, regional coordination, of course, shared training, shared tools, and shared models. Looking at prevention-focused approaches, so early intervention. So if SWIS is not there, and we're the first point of contact for a newcomer, and there's a crisis, we're the first ones to address it. So working with communities to not individualize how newcomer families are being supported, but to broaden that capacity within communities, agencies, different organizations as well, and how that referral process is working. So looking at that, a lot of it is also smarter data. I mean, we need to know what's happening in the sector. We need to move ahead for just looking at how newcomers can integrate into what is the word? Social media, and how their approach to education and settling, and how we can implement better strategies.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
Moi, j'aimerais voir, parce qu'on peut visionner tant qu'on veut, puis je déteste jeter les pavés dans la mare, mais je vais le faire quand même.
So I don't like to actually disturb the pod, but I would like to see less micromanagement. I would like to see a call for tender like simplified. I would like to see a call for tender which is simplified, to avoid that everyone is applying for the IDP, and IRCC needs to analyze everything at the same time. And why am I saying this? If we want to develop the vision that we want to have, we can't burn people that are there beforehand. What I'm seeing is all the agents are really burnt out for everyone. So I'm talking about the agents of IRCC, but also the ones writing everything. So all the ecosystem. Yes, I think we need, thank you, Anthony, we need a simplified ecosystem to allow us to do our work, because the time that we actually put in finance management, management of ADP, the writing, the micromanagement of funding, we're not doing our work, and that's extremely frustrating. That's why we have mental health problems following up to that. For me, it's not worth it to develop a vision if we continue to complicate things. Let's go towards simplification, and that's actually a call from my heart, going directly to our stakeholder. That's why communication is important, to exchange and to talk to one another. Thank you, Marie-Claude. Really quickly, but we're going to go around the table.
Vision that you have for the SWIS network.
I think national Swiss coordination would be great, a great place to start. I envision the Swiss national coordinating body working very closely with the TÜ national coordinating body and passing information down in that way, but also that would provide more formal and structured opportunities for us to pass information up as well. I think that would make a big difference. That said, I do think that the Swiss regional coordinators and also the other folks involved with Swiss at the other umbrellas across Canada have done a good job at connecting as much as we can, despite the formal coordination. And I think we're all really eager to work together and advance those partnerships. In terms of maybe the regional SWIS-TÉÉ connection, I think we've done a great job at kind of building that relationship quite quickly with DSFS and ARESA. I think we were thrown into our working relationship very quickly with pulling together this event, but I will say like we wrote our CFP with DSFS, the hope and the intention from the beginning, as we both hope to be funded for these positions, was to work in collaboration with one another on so many different projects. And we have lots to come where that will be really clear, where, like the regional in-person events I mentioned earlier. We also have, we're hoping to make an online course for Swiss and TÜ next year, which will be done in collaboration with one another. So there's lots of opportunity, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Olivia. Very briefly, anyone else who wants to add something? Isabelle, probablement Nguena également qui voudrait ajouter.
So maybe Nguena, would you like to add something quickly? I'm going to go around the table quickly, but time is lacking, so I'm going to start with maybe Sabine. So what I'm seeing is to develop strategy, especially we talked about family as well, but I think solid training is really important as well. So national coordination for the TU, for the school system within the province, with, of course, the assessment of needs is really key. And it's important, actually, that we do a good assessment of the needs and with a good action plan. And that's going to meet the need of the family, because they also plan the activities they offer to families, and we can mobilize parents to come to the services. And maybe a production of a report and guide for the TEE. So that's it. You can training, skill building, and implementation of ADP, so they can actually do their work and of impact with the level of family. So that's good. I'm going to go and support the first point of Olivia on the networks. They need to be solid because there's an Anglophone counterpart to those networks that will allow to formalize training. And we are dreaming of recognition of what our colleagues are doing, so they could be well valued, because they shouldn't be reduced to be an intercultural interpreter. They need to be recognized for the complexity of their work, because it's a complex work, and we need the support of our stakeholders. And something else that we need to harmonize is the implication of provinces and territory. For now, it's not balanced on the national level. Certain provinces and programs are really valued and not as much in other provinces, because it's a question of federal. So I think once we need to harmonize this involvement in its education, and that's touching all provinces. So thank you very much. 30 seconds maybe for all our remaining panelists. So Linda, maybe you didn't speak on your vision. Maybe you can actually take the mic. Marini?
On the vision of the network, do we want to add
A vision of the...
other than what our colleagues did added earlier today?
I don't think I have much more to add to that.
That's fair.
I mean,
that's fair. That gives us more time for the question period. Actually, we did cut a little bit on the time here. But on va passer à la période de questions. Donc,
we're going to go straight into the question period. We're going to take questions in the room. I think microphones are going to circulate in the room today.
Oh, it is just Slido today. My bad. Donc, les questions vont être posées
So
via
the
l'application
question will
Slido.
be asked
Bien, vous
towards
apparaître
the
à
Slido
l'écran pour les gens
actually
en ligne
on the
et
screen
également
for people
dans la salle.
online and also
Alors, vous
people
scannez
in the
l'invitation,
room. Just
vous
scan
faites
the
le
app
code
or scan
QR
the
et vous
QR
faites
code,
posez vos
and you can
questions
also
directement
actually
sur
write
l'application.
slido.com with the
Donc,
number that
c'est
you see
comme
on
ça
the
qu'on va
screen.
procéder pour
Just
le
write your question
panel.
right there, and
Pour
that's
les gens qui
how
sont en
we will
virtuel, vous
work with
devriez
the
voir dès maintenant
panel.
le Slido apparaître à l'écran. Alors, n'hésitez pas à
So
participer à la
anyone
conversation également
online, do
en
not hesitate to
ligne.
participate in the conversation
So
online
we'll
as
give a few
well.
minutes
So
just
we'll give you a few
people
minutes
ask their questions
so people
via
can actually ask their
Slido.
questions
We'll
through the
continue to
Slido.
everyone to
It's going to
answer
be
the questions you might have after this amazing panel.
Thank you.
Oui, on l'a fait.
C'est une stratégie.
Yeah.
I can't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Allô? Allô? Merci. Je voudrais juste apporter une contribution, ce n'est pas une question. C'est pour ça que je m'excuse pour l'insistance. Il y a quelque chose que nous n'avons pas évoqué, et ce n'est pas la faute des panélistes, ce n'est non plus votre faute. Peut-être qu'on n'a pas prévu ça. Mais quand on parle des TE aujourd'hui au Canada, il faut bien préciser que les TE travaillent aussi dans les écoles d'immersion. On n'a pas tellement évoqué ça, mais c'est quelque chose qu'à la frappe, par exemple, en Alberta, nous faisons depuis 2002. Et c'est important qu'on puisse apprendre de plus en plus comment ça se passe aussi dans les écoles d'immersion. Parce que les écoles d'immersion, comme vous pouvez vous en douter, sont des écoles anglophones, mais qui ont un département d'immersion française. Donc la réalité dans ces écoles-là est complètement différente de ce qui est dans les écoles francophones, qui sont complètement francophones. Donc je voulais juste souligner ça pour dire que c'est peut-être l'objet d'une autre conférence, mais c'est important que nous puissions le savoir. Ça a commencé en 2022 avec la frappe, mais je sais que pour l'appel à proposition de 2024, maintenant il y a eu la possibilité pour d'autres organisations d'avoir des financements et de faire ce travail dans les écoles d'immersion. Donc je voulais juste signaler ça pour qu'on ne l'oublie pas. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Très intéressante comme perspective. Merci beaucoup.
really interesting, actually, as perspective. Thank you for that exchange. We have a few questions that were added on Slido, so we're just going to go quickly around it. On Slido first.
How can regional coordination assist new organizations funded for SWIS? There are no established standard operating procedures. Anyone else who wants to jump in with that question? Maybe Olivia.
Maybe, yeah, I can start. So we can't tell organizations how to approach SWIS. That's a conversation to have with your program officer. But our focus is on connecting SWIS and connecting organizations that are delivering SWIS services. And so, and also, I mean, providing the opportunities for knowledge transfer and shared learning. So, for example, we're organizing virtual PD events on topics that SWIS have identified as priorities for further training. Yeah, I mean, connecting with one another. There are two organizations in the Atlantic that are new to SWIS this year, and I've met with them regularly. I've connected them to other organizations. So when an organization comes to me and shares one of the gaps that they're experiencing or the challenges they're having, and I'm aware of another organization in the region who's doing that thing really well, there's a lot of referring that happens. And again, I think that's focusing on the connecting with one another.
Merci. Thank you, Olivia. We'll go to the next question. I believe it's c'est plutôt à propos de la formation des TEE. Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est quelque chose qui peut se faire?
It's actually training on the TEE. Is it something that you actually can do on the national level? I think you talked about it during the panel. Could you share that information? I don't know if that's a possibility that could be taken in consideration on the national level. I'm actually looking at Ingana on that subject. We talked about the launching of a standardized committee. That's actually on our plan, on our work plan on the national level. That's it. We're ongoing process. I would like actually to add the TEE work is a provincial coordination work. I don't think it could be truly be done on the national. If you allow me, Anthony, you had a question a little higher that would asking what are the relationship between with the First Nation. That's actually an important question to which I would like to answer. It was actually asked in English. Maybe gonna give you, somebody else the right to speak on that question. Is there a collaboration with the First Nation people of Canada? The bilingual work is always important, and that starts well. So we did establish a great relationship with First Nation. We developed a series of clips that you can actually find on YouTube. So this is my promotion jingle. It's called Cercle Ensemble and Étoile du Nord. So Cercle Ensemble in English is circle together, and Étoile du Nord is like North Star. And so in those clips, they are translated, I think, in 10 languages and 10 indigenous languages. And there's a beautiful partnership with First Nation within the frame of this project, and it continues.
Because I believe it's a very important question. So, is there any collaboration with the First Peoples of Canada in regard to the SWIS network? What is the kind of collaboration? So we see that with the Copa Nacional from the TEE side, but is there similar things that are happening with the SWIS network?
Not at this point. So the focus, again, like you said, this is very new, April 2025. The focus over the past year has been connecting with the service provider organizations delivering SWIS services. I think it will be very important to start building those relationships in the coming years, as well as with the school districts.
Perfect. Prochaine question, next question. Maybe
It's probably me, yeah. So the panel is the regional and national coordinating bodies for SWIS and TEÉ. So on the SWIS side, Malini and I are the two SWIS regional coordinators. There are no others. There are folks from other umbrella organizations who are doing kind of this work informally, but on the SWIS side, we're the two official or formal, I guess, regional coordinating bodies.
Wonderful. And we'll take another question in person in the room. We're heading towards, there you go.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. My name is Jerry Wu. I'm from BC Vancouver School Board. And I was with a high hope to come here for a national conference. But so far at this point, I haven't heard anything about the West. The voice from the West. And I think we have a lot to share because starting from 2007, BC has implemented the SWIS program in a different approach. There's a lot of experience learned that we'd love to share if we have an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Merci pour le commentaire. Thank you for the comment. Engena?
Thank you for the comment.
I would like just to add that, je voudrais ajouter qu'il y a certains quand même
I would like to
représentants du
add
West.
that certain West representatives are here. See, the Francophone is
Je
well
reconnais quelques organisations
represented on the West side. I know a
anglophones. Il y a
few
Oliver
Anglophone from
qui
Edmonton. I
dessert,
think Oliver
qui
is
dessert
serving
Edmonton, qui est ici.
all
Il y a
Edmonton.
quelques
That's
organisations du
he's present
Manitoba
today.
aussi
There's
qui sont
a few
présentes que
organizations
j'avais
from
connues.
Manitoba as well
Tu as raison,
that I
avec
recognize,
la
but
taille que nous
it's
avons,
true with the
ce
size that
côté
we
anglophone
have.
est sous-représenté ici.
The
C'est quelque chose qu'on
Anglophone side is
améliorera
underrepresented
dans le
here.
futur.
That's something that we need to
Pour
correct for the
clarifier un peu
future. To
l'intervention
clarify
de
maybe the
Marie-Claude par
intervention of
rapport à la
Marie-Claude
formation,
about
on veut
training,
uniformiser la formation.
we want
Donc,
to
en travaillant avec ce n'est pas la
streamline
coordination
training.
nationale qui va
So
offrir les formations.
it's not the national organization that will offer that training. There's going to be a coordination. They will actually fix those standards on a national level, and they will provide for the delivery of those training on the regional level.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. So to our panelists for today, thank you to everyone.
I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge Engena Ali Evenga, Sabel Gouye, Linda Kalouche, Marie-Claude Rioux, Olivia Fenimore, and Melanie Singh for their participation today on this amazing panel.